here, and you can try them together. It is to the benefit of the state to try them together. It just more efficient. You don't have to do.
Prosecutors are putting a lot of pressure on YNW Bortlen to speak against Melly. They have now filed paperwork to have both of them tried together, and the reason is very clear. If Bortlen is facing charges for the deaths of Sack Chaser and Juvie when he knows he did not do it, he might feel forced to say that Melly is responsible. Bortlen has always stayed loyal to Melly, even when Melly's own legal team tried to put the blame on him in the first trial. But now, things are becoming even more serious. When everything happened, Bortlen, whose real name is Cortland Henry, did not go to the hospital and sit in the waiting area. Instead, he was in the driver's seat of a car that had 2 lifeless bodies inside. The car was full of bullet holes. And when he arrived at the hospital, something was not right. He had changed his clothes, switched shirts, and had gunpowder on his hands. This showed that he had fired a gun. On top of that, he did not tell the truth. He gave false information about where the shooting happened, how it happened, and even said he did not have a phone. Even the prosecutors pointed out that in today's time, everyone has a phone. So why did Bortlen act like he did not? His own lawyer has said that Bortlen has always been the one who misled the police, had gunpowder on his hands, and was the last person seen with Sack Chaser and Juvie before they were gone. A forensic expert even confirmed the gunpowder on him, which made the case even stronger. Now, with this new trial setup, Bortlen is under more pressure than ever. If he decides to speak, it could be very bad for Melly. During the first trial, experts found gunpowder on Bortlen's hands. His right hand had 2 two-component particles, and his left hand had 1 characteristic residue particle and 1 two-component particle. In very simple words, this means there was gunpowder on his hands, which shows that he had fired a gun or was very close when a gun was fired. Bortlen did not like how things were going. So, when Melly's first trial ended in a mistrial, he posted a strange message on Twitter the same day. The tweet said, "Mind games do not work on people like me," with a handshake emoji at the end. Many people thought this meant he was accepting some kind of deal or hinting at something happening behind the scenes. But this was just the beginning of Melly's new problems. Things became even more shocking when Melly's mother started trending online. She became the center of attention after telling everyone that she had made a fan account while her son was still on trial. In an interview, she talked about why she created it and how much money she had already made. When asked why she decided to do something so unexpected, she answered with full confidence, showing that she had no regrets. Melly's mother surprised everyone when she told the world that she had started a fan account. In an interview, she explained why she made it. She said, "Why not make money while you sleep? I turned 40 this year, so why not do something crazy?" The interviewer then asked if she had already started it and how much she made on the first day. She smiled and said, "The first day was really big." When asked for a number, she finally shared that she made around $40,000 to $50,000 in just one day. This news quickly spread online, and many people were shocked. DJ Academics was one of the first to speak about it. He said, "I do not understand why she is doing this. Her son is fighting for his life in court. Some mothers in hip-hop seem to want to be stars just like their kids. Blueface's mom is one of them. But I never thought Melly's mom would do something like this." Academics believed she was not doing it for money, but people on social media did not agree. Many pointed out that Melly's family had already talked about how much money he had been spending. His mother said everything was fine, but his brother did not think so. His brother shared that Melly had spent a huge amount of money on lawyers, but also on things he did not need. "He spent money on a lot of things that should not have been bought," he said. When asked for an example, he mentioned cars and jewelry. "He is not even out to wear the jewelry. Why are you buying jewelry when you are not even here to wear it?" He agreed that spending on lawyers was important, but he felt that Melly wasted money on things that could have helped his case. Now he does not even want the chain anymore, he added. Melly's mother has been going through a lot because of the trial. She has broken down many times, and Melly himself has had to ask if she was okay. But Melly's problems are not ending. His ex-girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton, has now returned to the United States after being held in detention. On February 8th, a judge ordered her release, and this could bring even more trouble for Melly. When Melly walked into the courtroom, it was the first time he had seen Mariah Hamilton in person since he turned himself in back in February 2019. As soon as he saw her, he smiled, but he tried not to look at her too much. However, people inside the courtroom said he got emotional and even had tears in his eyes. But Mariah being back is bad news for him. After her release, she made a Facebook post on February 9th, thanking her family and friends. She wrote, "Thank you to my village. I love you all so much. God's plan, not mine." She also did not like that the courtroom was being shown on the local news. Mariah spent her first night at Broward County Jail after being arrested at Miami International Airport. She had no criminal record before this. Court records show that she was supposed to testify in Melly's first trial in 2023, but she did not. Now, things have changed. Mariah does not want to go back to jail, so she has agreed to testify in the new trial. The feds already know what happened to Sockchaser and Juvie. They just need Mariah to confirm it. She made a deal to be released from jail in exchange for her testimony. The feds even found evidence in her iCloud account that connects Melly to the crime. Because of this, Melly is now facing 6 new charges, including witness tampering. Some of these charges could put him in prison for life if he is found guilty. The charges include, Mariah might be the key witness that sends Melly to prison. People in her hometown say she had a call with him on the night of the crime. Even Juvie's father looked into it and found out that Melly used secret code words to communicate. At one point, Melly was not allowed to use the phone, so he found other ways to send messages. He would write notes and give them to someone who would then pass the message to another person who would finally make the call for him. The code words included names like Rihanna and Rocky, which referred to different people. This was all done to stop Mariah from testifying. Now that Melly has been charged with witness tampering, the jail has taken away his phone and blocked his mail. His mother, Jamie King, thinks this is unfair. She said, "My son has not been found guilty of anything, but he's being treated worse than prisoners who have. He should be able to call his family and get his mail." But officials believe he tried to tamper with witnesses, so they do not want to risk him reaching people outside the jail. His mother is heartbroken about the situation. When asked how she felt about Melly saying he was scared for his life, she said, "It is heartbreaking. It makes me feel completely helpless."
For his lives. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial.
She also believes the Broward Sheriff's Office is making its own rules and should be investigated. She explained, "We have gone to court about this, but the judge does not control the jail. They do whatever they want, and that is not fair." Many people have given their opinions about this case. Charleston White said, "He deserves to be in jail. If you take a life, you lose the right to complain about being mistreated." Even Boozy spoke about how hard this has been for Melly's mother. He said, "I met his mother when he was locked up. She is real, man. She is really stressed out, and I feel for her." Boozy also said that he reached out to support Melly because he understands how tough the situation is. With Mariah now testifying, new charges filed, and his phone and mail privileges taken away, things are only getting worse for Melly. When I see mothers going through pain like that, it reminds me of what my own mother went through. Melly's lawyers are doing everything possible to prove his innocence. They are trying their best to convince the court that he should not remain in jail while waiting for his trial. One of the main points they brought up in court is that no weapon was ever found in this case. They believe that without a gun, it is hard to prove that Melly was involved in the crime. Because of this, they are hoping the judge will allow him to be released on bond. Another key argument from his lawyers is that Melly was not even at the scene when the crime took place. They presented GPS evidence, which they say proves that he was actually running down the street at the time of the incident. If Melly was nowhere near the crime scene, then it would not be possible for him to have been involved. His legal team believes this is a strong point that should work in his favor. In addition to the GPS proof, the defense also showed text messages that Melly sent to his girlfriend. These messages suggest that he was scared and trying to figure out what was happening, just like everyone else. His lawyers believe that this shows he had no idea about the crime and was just as confused as others when he learned what happened. Melly's legal team is working hard to present all of this information to the judge in the hope that it will convince the court to let him go home while waiting for trial. They argue that there is no solid evidence linking him to the crime, and without strong proof, he should not be forced to stay behind bars. Despite their efforts, the situation is not simple. Prosecutors are pushing back, arguing that there is still enough evidence to keep Melly in custody. They believe that even without a gun, the other details in the case still point to his involvement. Because of this, the judge has a difficult decision to make. The battle to get Melly out of jail is still going on. His lawyers are working hard to prove that he should not be locked up, but the prosecutors are just as focused on keeping him behind bars. Both sides are presenting their arguments, trying to convince the court of their position. In the end, it will be up to the judge to decide. They will have to look at all the evidence carefully and determine whether there is a good enough reason to grant Melly bond. Until a final decision is made, his future remains uncertain. One of the most important pieces of evidence in this case is a conversation between Melly and his girlfriend. This exchange happened right around the time of the incident, and many people believe it could give important clues about what really happened. In one of the messages, Melly told his girlfriend that someone had just shot at the car he was in. He also said that the same car was still following him. His girlfriend was very worried and immediately asked if he was okay. She also wanted to know exactly where he was at that moment. Melly responded by saying that the car chasing him was still out there, and he was hiding to avoid being seen. He was clearly in a dangerous situation and was trying to stay safe. His girlfriend then asked him about Sockchaser and Juvie, the two friends who were with him earlier. She wanted to know if they were safe and where they were. But Melly told her that he was not sure if they were still inside the car or not. This conversation has become a key part of the case. The defense team sees it as proof that Melly was in danger that night and was not responsible for what happened. They argue that if Melly was running and hiding, then he could not have been the one who carried out the crime. His lawyers are using this to show that he was actually trying to escape from a dangerous situation. On the other hand, the prosecutors have a very different way of looking at this message. They believe that Melly was not telling the whole truth in his texts. Instead, they think he was trying to cover up what really happened that night. They argue that Melly might have sent these messages on purpose to make it look like he was the victim when, in reality, he was involved in the crime. The way the judge looks at this evidence will be very important in deciding whether Melly gets bond or not. If the court believes that his texts show he was truly in danger, then they might consider letting him out while he waits for trial. But if they think that the messages were just a way to create a false story, then it will be much harder for him to get bond. As the case continues, every new detail will matter. Both the defense and the prosecution are working to prove their side of the story. Melly's legal team is trying to prove that he should not be locked up, while the prosecutors are doing everything they can to keep him in jail.
You decided to break the internet the other day. You're saying that you're YNW Melly's mom and you're about...
At this point, nobody knows for sure what will happen. The judge's decision could change everything. For now, Melly remains behind bars, waiting to find out if he will be allowed to go home, or if he will have to stay in jail until his trial is over. Even with all these efforts, Melly was denied bond, and things are getting worse for him. He has been locked up for 6 years, and during that time, police have kept finding more evidence against him. Now, they believe they know why Melly did it. They found out that Melly was close to King Von before his arrest. A former team member said that Melly had asked Von for advice on what to do about Sockchaser and Juvie. The person did not say exactly what was discussed, but he made it clear that King Von was upset when he found out what happened. The big problem was money and control over YNW. The business was split 4 ways between Melly, Bortlen, Sockchaser, and Juvie. But Melly and Bortlen felt that they were doing most of the work, while Sockchaser and Juvie were making money without doing much. Melly did not like that. People who knew Melly well say that he wanted to change how the business was set up. He did not want to split the money with everyone anymore. Instead, He wanted the earnings to be shared only between him and Bortlen. This change would have doubled his income, giving him much more control over the business and its profits. Some believe that this could have created tension between him and the others, especially Sack Chaser and Juvie, who are also part of the team. When you look at the situation, the money issue is only one part of the problem. What makes things even worse for Melly is that he was not careful about how he acted after everything happened. Instead of staying quiet or showing any kind of sadness, people say he was bragging about it. This made many people suspicious, and it did not help his case. The way he spoke about the situation gave others the impression that he did not feel any guilt or regret. One of the most damaging pieces of evidence against Melly is a set of messages from an account named PZ Gambino. The conversation is now being used against him in court. The account reached out to Melly and asked if he was okay after everything that had happened. His response was simple but shocking. He wrote, "I did that." This made it sound like he was admitting to something. Later that same day, he sent another message, but this time, it was just SHHH. This made it seem like he was telling someone to stay quiet about the situation. Prosecutors are using this as proof that Melly was trying to cover up what really happened. They believe that these messages show that he was not only involved, but also trying to make sure no one spoke about it. This kind of evidence is hard to ignore. Even though Melly's lawyers are trying to prove his innocence, messages like these make it difficult for them to argue that he had nothing to do with the crime. The prosecution is using these messages to paint a picture of someone who was not only involved, but also confident enough to talk about it afterward. As the case moves forward, these details will play a huge role in determining Melly's fate. His defense team will have to find a way to explain these messages and prove that they do not mean what the prosecution says they do. Meanwhile, those who believe he is guilty see this as clear proof that he played a part in what happened. The situation is getting more serious, and with every new piece of evidence, the pressure on Melly and his team grows stronger. Whether or not these messages will be enough to convict him remains to be seen, but they have definitely made things much more complicated for him. Prosecutors also found a Facebook Live video from the same day. In the video, Melly and Bortlen were acting normal, almost like nothing had happened. Instead of being sad, Melly was smiling, laughing, and enjoying himself. This made people question his behavior. Investigators also checked the Jeep where the crime happened. Sergeant Williams confirmed that it was not a drive-by shooting. He said that the bullets came from inside the car, not outside. This was a big discovery in the case. Even worse, Juvie's mother gave a statement. She identified her son's seat in the car and confirmed who was sitting next to him. When they asked if she recognized the person who sat in the back left seat, she said yes, and that person was Melly. With all this evidence, things are not looking good for Melly.